Chapter 11, Evolution. The sun was rising, and my top leaves began basking in the gentle sunlight. With a decisive snap, I let all my apples drop to the ground. All the magic I had been storing over the past 11+ years was unleashed in one mighty burst. I could feel every part of me being nourished by this great force. My body was slowly increasing in density. My magic core kept expanding at a crazy rate, increasing my control over magic and my overall mental capabilities. All this happened under the careful and precise instructions of my system. The unstoppable burst of magic was slowly subdued, refined, and used to complete my physical evolution. Next, it was time for the most crucial part of evolving. The step from producing fruit like a natural tree to producing ore like a very unnatural tree mainly emphasized deduction. Or to say it in another way, an enormous mental capacity would be needed to apply plant growth features to ores. This process, albeit done by magic, needed to follow a formula. This formula is ever-changing like life itself and would have to be adjusted continuously, thus the requirement of mental capacity. With the now vastly improved magic core I possessed, I could run the necessary calculations. Congratulations to host for successful enhancement of host's magic core. Beginning or growth formula deduction. Deduction complete. Application to tin or beginning. Application successful. Congratulations to host for officially evolving into entity, magical or tree. I think that's the longest I've ever heard you talk at one time. After I had evolved, the changes could clearly be seen. All the places where there had once been apples were now filled by dazzling lumps of pure tin. This silvery white treasure, albeit not the most precious nor most durable of metals, it holds many practical values. Tin was used for many useful alloys, because of its strong properties for bonding other metals due to its low melting point. The main reason I decided on using tin as my first metal to be displayed was its silvery white color. Tonight, there would be a full moon. And wouldn't the shine just be wonderful and sparkly in the moonlight? I had to see this. At least as much as I could see. Host's obsession with his own appearance is deemed as an obstruction to growing. Recommending host to halt such actions immediately. Come on. No. Stop that. No summoning circles needed here. We can talk about this right? Beginning termination due to lack in growth moral. Wait. You misunderstood, I'm doing this to get more faith. Canceling termination. Phew, glad I could come up with this on the spot. What did you say? Host? Nothing. So anyway, I was now a certified magical or tree that looked damn good. Giddily waiting the whole day, evening finally arrived. And with it came the daily evening prayer from the humans. Led by Narita, they all congregated around the outermost tree circle. They had stayed away from me the whole day. Seemed that the burst of magic during my evolution had scared them a little. Thus my completely changed look came as an even bigger surprise to them. Sparkling silver lights in the pale blue light of the moon. Their facial expressions were in awe, and I felt like the faith I received had grown just a little stronger. The next day, Narita came to find me in the morning. Not that there was any searching needed, I still couldn't move after all. So, what's with the new look? A change of heart, my dear, my soul is now pure like silver. I like the soul of apples more. Well, I've evolved, so for the time being there won't be any apples. But I have ores now. This is tin, a very useful metal. So it's not silver, what a disappointment. Anyway, I'm here to get the spell you promised me, for not learning the one from my clan. I was slightly sad that my great new powers weren't appreciated, but the thing she mentioned was indeed more pressing. After all, I'd have multiple years to convince her of the greatness of tin. As for the spell promise, that was quite a complicated matter. Chapter 12, Spell Synergy. Before his unfortunate passing, Narvi, knowing what was going to happen to him, had taught Nerita the only spell he knew. The spell was named Earthen Bullhead. It used powerful magic to create an earthen bullhead that would follow its victim and crash into it. The main problem being that to use the spell without being a Baron Magus would need the assistance of the caster's blood. The more blood, the more powerful the spell is, essentially making this a suicide spell with great power and little use. So when Nerita told me she wanted to learn it after breaking through, I told her not to. The whole affair ended in me promising to teach her another spell once she had stabilized her realm and brought the clan under her absolute control. Did I have such a spell prepared? No. Did I have a plan for getting such a spell? No. Was I just going to improvise? Definitely. Nerita, sit here with your back touching my bark. I need to see what spell suits you. She sat down, trying to hide her anticipation. Her hands were trembling with excitement. To people from lower clans like hers, learning a suitable spell that had no drawbacks was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Through the connected surface between Nerita and me, I could now check her body condition. As my magic slowly flowed into her body, Nerita slightly shivered. Feeling the intruding magic, her own magic lashed out violently, only to dissipate upon contact. My magic was overwhelming in both its density and accuracy of its movement compared to hers. I kept the amount minimal as to not cause any damage to her body and began to systematically inspect everything. Soon I was met with an unexpected surprise. The blood in her veins was not entirely human. There was a wild aura mixed in, hard to notice because of its low potency. Mountain Bull Bloodline detected. Extract? Hell no. This is perfect. If I teach her beast mode, she will definitely be satisfied and not learn that suicide spell. Mountain Bull Bloodline is highly beneficial to the host once he evolves into a magical beast tree. Extraction is highly recommended. Why are you suddenly using square brackets again? The system had a malfunction. Oh really? Then the fact that you just used a different form to refer to yourself surely is a malfunction too, right? Indeed. You must mean affirmative, right? Host is asked to shut up. I really wanted to comment on the use of shut up instead of something like refrain from speaking, but, divine lumberjack. Reeling my magic back, I began teaching Nerita her new spell. On that subject, a quick explanation of how magic works in both worlds to the best of my understanding. In my old world, there were two main ways to cast a spell. Manually controlling magic to take the desired form and element, like for an example, forming a ball out of fire magic would create a fireball. Depending on the spell, this could be very demanding on the user's mind because they had to control everything by themselves. The second option was essentially the same, but with a solution for the high mental demand of spells. The manual conversion and formation of the spell were be substituted through magic circles. Using the same example as before, you'd need a fire conversion and a ball formation circle. These circles were generally just created in the caster's mind, but could also be engraved and used similarly to runes. In this world, spells seem to depend on a so-called spell model. This mental construct would do all the work. The only thing the caster did was to build the model and feed it with enough magic for the spell to work. Now, why did I explain all this? The spell I was going to teach Nerita was, of course, different from all the things mentioned previously. Beast Mode, as it was generally called, was a transmutation-type spell that took advantage of the user's bloodline. Through stimulation of this bloodline, one could temporarily receive certain attributes of the bloodline progenitor. Sadly, the prerequisite for this spell was having a bloodline. And getting such a bloodline was pretty difficult. To put this into perspective, if 100 people drank the blood of a beast strong enough to give them a bloodline, it would be a miracle if anyone survived. The easiest way to receive a bloodline was to have your ancestors take the risk and then just be born with it. But enough of all that for now. Teaching Narita the way to stimulate her bloodline was a quick matter. Chapter 13, Bloodline Awakening. All the villagers were running around in panic. Another bestial roar came from the base of a great tree in the middle of the village. The chaos kept increasing with every furious roar that covered the village. And all this was probably caused by yours truly. I admitted that in hindsight I had made a mistake. Not telling Narita about the pain brought by the first transformation was not my brightest moment. Though I was sure there would be worse moments in the future. But anyway, the mistake was made and I had thoroughly reviewed where I was wrong. The matter was done. Host is detected to be in a state of delusion due to trying to avoid being at fault. This behavior is deemed detrimental to the host's image. Suggesting to correct attitude. Fine, I'll apologize to Narita once it's over. 5 minutes later it was over. The village was now close to a ghost town and Narita back to normal. Mentally, that is. Her physique had changed quite a bit. 2 long dark horns protruded from her head. Her skin tone had changed into a gray color that resembled a rock. Narita's height had increased by more than 20 centimeters and her whole body was packed with muscles. Wanting to test the newfound strength in her body, Narita rushed over to my neighbor, the acorn tree. I tried to stop her, but with her increase in speed, my reaction was just a tad bit slow. She reached the tree and swung her fist at it. Accompanied by a loud bang and the sound of shattering wood, a cavity appeared in the tree's trunk. But this wasn't enough yet for little Narita. No, she had to swing her leg and hit the tree squarely next to the crater. This kick caused enough destruction to fell the ancient acorn tree, ending its ascent to be a great fruit-bearing tree. Thankfully, Narita managed to calm herself after seeing the towering tree fall. This is the strength of a Baron Magus. Such a powerful spell. With this, I can dash. Don't overestimate yourself. You merely hold physical strength comparable to a Baron Magus. Your spells fall short by a huge margin. From what I can tell, the only thing that you could win against a Baron Mage is a comparison in defense. I knew exactly what Narita was thinking. If she could exert Baron-level strength at the Knight level, then once she became a Baroness Maga, she might stand a chance against the leader of the Verdant Serpent clan's leader. This notion of hers was utterly ludicrous in my opinion. The Verdant Serpent clan was just like the Mountain Bull clan named after a beast. It would be very strange if they didn't possess the Verdant Serpent's bloodline as well. And while a low-level clan like the Mountain Bull clan may not know how to use their bloodline, that didn't necessarily mean that the more high-level ones didn't. As you are now, you wouldn't be able to defeat a Baron Magus. If you learned some martial arts though, your chances would improve. Martial arts? Self-defense techniques for mages they copied and modified from other civilizations. They should be somewhat similar to how the fighter class does battle. But the fighter class is weak. It's said that a mage will never lose to a fighter of the same class. Be that as it may, if you use both battle styles you will emerge victoriously. Maybe another day. I'm tired. Where is everybody? Remember all the screaming you did during the transformation? They kind of got scared and ran away. And so began Narita's exhausting search of her fellow villagers. They hadn't run far, and when they heard the explanation they immediately returned. While Narita was out searching for the others, something strange occurred at the edge of my field of vision. A small blue dragon with feathered wings broke through space. In its mouth was an arrow. The air around it would begin to twist ever so slightly, and it gave off a hard-to-detect spatial fluctuation. Behind this dragon, space opened up again. But this time it was a clear-cut rift. The aura of the lady flying out made me tremble. She was definitely an archmage of high rank, if not a deity, making her even more powerful. She was chasing after the dragon and had reached it in the blink of an eye. But the little reptile swung around his head and used the tip of the arrow to make another gash in space. The dragon had disappeared into the already closed gash, provoking an irritated glare from the lady in blue. She flicked her wrist and created another rift. After she had left, the rift sealed up, and nobody might guess what had just traversed through this world. Chapter 14 of Bandits and Merchants. A few days had passed since Narita had acquired her beast form. I had been leisurely growing tin, copper and iron ingots, while trying to teach Narita martial arts. I found it to be unexpectedly difficult to teach someone how to fight without having a body myself. But soon my attempts had to be postponed. Some of the villagers had seen armed men in the forest. These men, presumably bandits, were a real danger for the village. Narita hastily ordered all villagers to remain in the village for the following days. The few magi would take turns keeping watch with 2 able-bodied villagers. I was expecting the bandits to first spy on the village and then attack during the night. But they decided to just charge in during the middle of the day without even scouting ahead. There were 20 of them. Their weapons weren't well cared for, they looked like hoodlums to me. "Hand over all your food and maybe we'll just leave." Narita stepped forward, followed by the magi and a few others. "We don't wish for any conflict between us, but we won't hand over our food. Please leave." The bandits looked at each other, and the entire group resumed their charge towards the village. The one who had made the ultimatum up front. Beast mode. These were the last 2 words the bandit leader heard before his skull was smashed by a grey fist. Narita had transformed and attacked without hesitation. By the time the other bandits recovered from their shock, Narita had finished 4 more of them. They turned to flee as 2 more fell and took off as fast as they could. But how could they escape a superhuman like Narita? Yes, they should split up. My thoughts exactly. Not the thoughts of those bandits though. They chose to cry and scream for help. Only a single bandit survived. Narita had dragged him back for interrogation after killing the others. "Why are you bandits here in the wilderness? There should be few people to rob out here. We didn't mean to come here." The king decided to expand into the wilderness and had a city built near the border. "We were offered great rewards to pioneer into the wilderness, but ultimately they just sent us out to scout without any provisions. Are there more of you in the vicinity?" "Not anymore. Some of us went back to inform the city while we planned to raid you. In conclusion, there likely would be more of them coming here. Or so we thought." The next week passed without any disturbances. All our cautious behavior was wasted. On the 8th day, a figure appeared on the outskirts of the village. A middle-aged man sitting on a horse cart. A merchant called Aldi hailing from the new city. He said he came for trading and claimed to know nothing of the scouts. His true purpose had likely been to gather information on this village. That was until he caught a glance of me. More specifically, of what was hanging on my branches. He was a seasoned merchant, no doubt. It only took him a second to discern that one of the ingot types was high-purity iron. "Is it a custom of yours to hang precious metals on some tree?" He made a probing joke. Just that Narita took it the wrong way. Aldi had unknowingly insinuated that I was just some soulless tree, which to Narita was an insult to her friend. He grows those metals himself. Yup, she was mad. Thankfully, Aldi was quite perceptive and noticed his mistake. Apologies, that was inconsiderate of me. But I have to ask, is he willing to sell these metals? Why don't you ask him yourself? Nerita strode off at a furious pace. Aldi was left alone, staring blankly for a moment. Then he seemed to get a hold of himself and approached me. Greetings, Lord Tree. May I ask for your name? A name. I must confess I had never thought about my name. Sure, I had a name in my previous world. But using it here seemed inappropriate. I'd have to decide on a new, fitting name. The waiting look Aldi gave me started to become uncomfortable. He probably thought I was evaluating whether he was worth telling him my name. But here I was, still thinking of that very name. Another minute passed and I had finally decided. Chapter 15, Elder? You may call me Eldar, little merchant. I said, trying to make my voice sound deep and full of wisdom. It seemed to somewhat work as Aldi's countenance changed, his body shifting into a low bow. Then, Lord Eldar, I was meaning to ask if those metals on your branches could be purchased? For a high price, of course. Aldi said the second sentence as fast as he could, as if it were an insult, not to mention the high price. I was sure he'd pay a good deal of money, but of what use would that be to me? I wasn't a dragon, so hoarding gold wasn't one of my hobbies. Instead, well, I am not overly materialistic. A blatant lie. But since you came to spy on us and wanted to make a good impression, I'm sure you have some valuable goods to trade with me. Yes, of course. Wait. I'm not a spy. I didn't mean that. I just have valuable goods with me. Out of seemingly no reason, taking valuable goods into a wilderness and finding an unknown village without a guide. What a coincidence. Maybe I can squeeze some of that luck out of your body and use it as fertilizer. Fine, you got me. I bought the info on your location from the border city, Utgard. They want to establish a safe area around the city. They will pay a fortune for info from locals about the various danger zones. But about that trade. What do you have to offer? Wordlessly he ran back and brought over his cart. Then he began opening the various crates in the back. Inside them were various iron farming tools, seeds, and some iron weapons. All of this looks like good stuff. How much? Well, how about 3 silver ingots or 50 iron ingots? Silver? Oh, you must have confused the tin with silver. This metal is not silver, it only looks similar. But since you will probably be unable to appreciate the glory of tin, I'll trade using iron ingots. Now step back, I don't want to smash you. Though confused about my comment, Aldi stepped back decisively. Only seconds later, a rain of iron ingots dropped from my branches. The ingots left little craters where they had landed. I asked Nerita and some villagers to help carry out the trade. Not long after, Aldi left the village with his cart and a stack of iron ingots on it. I hope no one robs him. I hope he runs into a pack of tempest wolves. Where's that coming from, Nerita? He'd die. That's what he deserves for treating you like a normal tree. I hope they rip him to shreds. Now, he apologized and we made a good trade. Just forgive him and go occupy yourself with distributing the traded goods. I could guess why Nerita was so critical about Aldi. He was from the Sky Kingdom. If he found out who they were and the Verdant Serpent clan got wind of it, things wouldn't end well. Aldi returned periodically every month or so. The officials in Utgard had taken a great interest in the locals that had survived more than 10 years in this area. My presence was, of course, another aspect that greatly increased the village's worth. And as Narita had feared, it didn't take long for Aldi to find out their true identity. Only the resulting occurrences astonished her greatly. On Aldi's next visit, he was joined by a messenger from Utgard's Council of Nobles. This messenger, a man with short black hair, sharp eyes and the vibe of someone who felt much more important than he was, held an official decree of the council. He asked all the villagers to gather at my base. Then, with an exaggerated gesture, he removed the seal while making sure everyone could see it and unfolded the scroll. I should probably mention that based on the villagers whispering, the seal represented the king's proxy. I hardly have to tell you what kind of power this seal holds. It can only be reversed or overruled by the king himself. This brought both great excitement and terror to the villagers, causing their whispering to intensify. The messenger cleared his throat. Deadly silence followed. What if they missed a single word? Their eyes were glued to the messenger's lips. The contents of the scroll were as follows.